Hey, look. Anybody cheating in here, whether it's 24 and Selma, whether it's Mendeecees and Yandy, whoever it is, cheating.
Can you picture a night when everything you believe to be true abruptly changes? There are rumors that Karlie may have discovered a startling secret about Ashley and Mendeecees. And insiders warn that the consequences might be disastrous. Ashley and Mendeecees are alleged to have been concealing an affair behind closed doors, which has strained friendships and caused supporters to doubt allegiance. According to reports, Zayne is currently at the center of this maelstrom, with feelings more intense than ever. What began as a peaceful evening swiftly descended into tense arguments. Accusations flying in all directions and startling disclosures that nobody could have predicted. According to sources, according to witnesses, Zayne had a strong reaction, causing the room to descend into chaos as tensions escalated and voices were raised, whether deliberate or not. Karlie's disclosure has sparked a series of events that have the potential to permanently alter the dynamics between these reality TV stars. As the drama develops, fans are said to be in shock, with some picking sides and others just watching in shock. The atmosphere is described as being in complete disarray, with rumors of betrayals, covert alliances, and sudden walkouts. Could this be the season's greatest scandal? Stay tuned because the details that are coming to light are more startling than anyone could have predicted. Quietly, almost seductively, the darkness began. It was intended to be a laid-back evening of cocktails and catch-up when the actors assembled at Ashley's apartment. Insiders claim that tensions were simmering beneath the surface. Despite the fact that viewers may have thought it was simply another ordinary reality TV hangout. When Zayne first arrived, he appeared particularly tense. His eyes darted around the room, catching small glances between Mendeecees and Ashley that he had not previously observed. As he nursed a drink that felt suddenly heavier than normal, he whispered to himself, "I don't like being left out of the loop." As usual, Karlie had a strong sense of drama. She observed the slight hesitancies, the apprehensive giggles, and the barely visible hand gestures that indicated more was happening than anyone cared to acknowledge. "There's something strange about tonight," she muttered to a friend next to her. The room froze when she leaned in and whispered, "You might want to know what's really going on between Ashley and Mendeecees," loud enough for Zayne to hear before anybody could respond. Zayne's gaze jerked in her direction, his brow furrowed, and his pulse seemed to be pounding. He was immediately struck by the ramifications. There had been rumors before, but this time they were different. This was not a rumor. Karlie's speech was clear and purposeful, suggesting a covert affair that had been concealed in plain sight. Zayne's hands trembled a little as he took in the information. He made an effort to even out his voice, but it was clearly jagged. "What are you saying?" He leaned forward and stared at Ashley as he demanded. Mendeecees shifted uneasily on the couch, and Ashley's smile faltered for the first time that night. Other companions looked at each other anxiously, some of them quietly trying to divert the subject from the impending storm. Ashley's voice was a little louder than normal as she answered, "I don't know what Karlie is talking about," revealing her composed exterior. But you could feel the tension. Zayne didn't believe it. With all eyes now on the scene, he could feel the room closing in on him. Sensing that the bomb had dropped, Karlie chose to proceed cautiously, speaking in a steady but low voice. "I've witnessed enough to know that something is happening." She didn't need to elaborate, saying, "It's not my place to say everything. But it's big, and Zayne, you deserve to know." Suddenly, the room's vibe changed from light-hearted laughing to tense anxiety. Zayne's mouth clenched. With a start, he got up and knocked his drink off the table. He paced for a while before coming to a halt in front of Ashley, murmuring, "I can't believe this. You've been keeping this from me, then?" Ashley glanced briefly at Mendeecees before returning her attention to Zayne. She started to say, "It's complicated," but Zayne cut her off. "Complicated. We're not referring to late appointments or misplaced keys. Ashley, trust is what we're discussing. Have faith." His voice rose a little, but underlying it was a controlled rage, a raw intensity that silenced everyone else, even Mendeecees, who had attempted to maintain a neutral front. now appeared stranded, torn between protecting himself and preventing the situation from getting worse. He murmured softly, almost begging Zayne, "I never meant for anyone to find out like this." But Zayne's eyes remained fixed on him, knowing that she had unintentionally unleashed a tempest. Karlie watched silently from her position. The air in the room was electric and heavy with expectation. Fans who had been following this group for years could only speculate about the impending eruption. Zayne's feelings had progressed from incredulity to rage, and now to a boiling mixture of heartache and treachery. His voice cracked a little as he turned to Ashley. "So, this is what you've been hiding after everything we've been through, including the conversations and the promises." Ashley couldn't meet his eyes, so she looked down. She said almost inaudibly, "I didn't want to hurt anyone," but it was scarcely audible over Zayne's mental whirlpool. Friends attempted to calm him down by interjecting, but he dismissed them with a wave. "Don't. Keep quiet. I must hear this from them." The room fell silent, save for the faint murmur of tension and the sporadic squirm of a nervous person shifting in their chair. The following few seconds seemed to drag on forever. Mendeecees' voice was steadier than he felt when he finally spoke. "Zayne, I also didn't anticipate this happening. It simply occurred. I thought we could keep everything under wraps, but obviously that didn't work out." Zayne's eyes widened, his face displaying a mixture of incredulity and growing wrath. Not only was the revelation startling, but it also seemed like a betrayal built upon years of mutual trust and life experiences. "What did you think? That you wouldn't get caught by this? Anything I wouldn't be aware of?" His tone was controlled and piercing, making everyone clutch their breath as he snapped. Knowing that the tension was at its highest, Karlie made the cautious decision to intervene. "See, I didn't initiate this. I am simply expressing what people have been observing. Whether anyone likes it or not, it's out there now." Her composure in the face of the storm was almost comical given the mayhem all around her. For a minute, Zayne's eyes softened as he glanced at her before quickly returning to Ashley and Mendeecees. "I had faith in you both." The quiet was deafening, and the weight of his words hung in the air. "And now I feel like I can't trust anything anymore." Friends quickly whispered to one another, aware that the evening had officially gotten out of hand, with Mendeecees striving to find the appropriate words, Ashley attempting to explain, and Zayne pacing. The altercation swiftly got out of hand. Mendeecees reiterated almost robotically that it wasn't planned to hurt anyone. But Zayne's feelings were now too strong to control. "Hurt? Do you have any idea how this feels?" He lowered his voice to a low, raging growl and asked. Online viewers would subsequently comment on the unadulterated passion, the unrestrained fury, and the feeling that this might be the season's pivotal moment. The room seemed to be on the verge of total mayhem because every look, every pause, and every word was exaggerated. Friends attempted to step in, with one gently saying, "Zayne, perhaps we should all just calm down for a moment." But Zayne's focus was unwavering and laser-focused. "Slow down, following what I recently learned. Do you think I can just take a sip of my drink and act as though nothing's going on?" There was no space for debate as his voice reverberated throughout the space. Mendeecees' normally composed demeanor was crumbling under the strain, and Ashley's eyes filled with a perfect storm of feeling that included remorse and dread. As Karlie watched, she realized that she had ignited a fire that was difficult to extinguish, the kind of revelation that would be the subject of months of fan analysis. Zayne's rage fluctuated between shock, melancholy, and quiet periods of introspection as the minutes passed slowly. As though attempting to physically digest the treachery, he fell into a chair for a moment and ran his hands through his hair. Ashley tentatively reached for him, but he retreated. "Don't. Just don't," he murmured softly, although there was still a lot of emotion in his voice. It seemed as though the night had turned into an emotional battleground because of the sharp contrast between the room's former playful enthusiasm and the present anxiety, as Ashley attempted to defend herself by saying, "I never wanted this to happen. It just ... It happened." Voices rose once more. "I had no idea how to stop it." Zayne's acerbic laugh broke the tension. occur. "Zayne, I never wanted you to find out like this," Mendeecees said at last, trying to clarify. "I thought we could keep it private." Zayne's reaction was immediate, a mixture of anger and disbelief. "Private. Until someone chose to reveal it, my life is private. That is dishonest, not private." The words reverberated around the flat like a hammer. Ashley's face crumbled as she understood the extent of the storm she had been trapped in. Her guilt evident in every line. The tension persisted, unbroken as the night went on. As friends and bystanders attempted to comprehend the situation, murmurs of surprise and incredulity drifted across the room. The betrayal was nasty, public, and emotional in addition to being personal. Fans of the narrative would subsequently claim that this particular event, in all its unadulterated form, encapsulated the fundamental characteristics of reality television drama: intense emotions, revealed secrets, and lives irrevocably changed in a single evening. The tension in the room was still high, and the quiet was nearly intolerable. With his mind racing, Zayne sat back in his chair, attempting to make sense of what he had just heard. Ashley's hands were twitching uneasily as she averted her sight from his flaming eyes. The magnitude of the secret that had just been revealed made the normally composed Mendeecees appear somehow smaller. Karlie continued to be perceptive in a quiet way, knowing that her disclosure had set off a domino effect that was difficult to stop. Later viewers of the videos would remark on how the convivial gathering had changed into something more like a battlefield, with each look and action now carrying significance. "How long, then?" Zayne eventually inquired, his tone low but piercing, his words measured and tinged with treachery. Mendeecees swallowed forcefully, and Ashley recoiled a little. Ashley's voice nearly broke as she sputtered, It wasn't planned to be long." Zayne's jaw tensed as he said, "I never thought anyone would find out. Unplanned." "Nothing about this makes sense, Ashley. How could you hide this from all the people I care about?" The room felt electrified by the force of his voice. Friends shuffled uneasily, some looking at one another, uncertain whether to speak up or remain silent. At last, Karlie spoke in a calm yet direct tone. "Zayne, even though the truth may be messy, you have a right to know it." Her statement seemed to break the tension and give Zayne an opportunity to comprehend the full extent of the betrayal. This isn't just about secrets, it's about trust. And right now, that trust is shattered. His hands were clenched around the arms of his chair as if the word trust had struck him the hardest. As he took it all in, the room seemed to pause its breath, each moment seeming longer than the one before it. In an attempt to justify himself, Mendeecees used a plaintive tone. "I wanted no one to be harmed, certainly not you, Zayne." Zayne laughed bitterly with a mixture of disbelief and fury. "I thought I could manage it, keep it private until the right time." Private? Private? Is betrayal considered private? The bang reverberated across the room as he casually smacked his fist against the table. Ashley covered her face with her hands as she winced. The friends present were unable to turn away as the drama played out in real time, their feelings unadulterated and unrefined. Voices began to overlap as the disagreement swiftly heated up, with each statement becoming more heated than the one before it. "I had faith in both of you." Zayne got to his feet and yelled, "I believed that what we had significance, and this is how it's paid back." Ashley's rage overpowered his attempt to clarify. She started to say, "Zayne, please, let me," but he abruptly interrupted. "Don't. Simply don't. I am unable to hear it." The intensity in his gaze was evident. It's the kind of rage that seemed to permeate the space and make it impossible to concentrate on anything else. "I need you to understand the weight of this." Friends attempted to step in once more. In an attempt to ease the mounting tension, one person said, "Perhaps we should all take a breath." Zayne paced back and forth while shaking his head, his feelings vacillating between heartbreak and wrath. Knowing that this has been going on right in front of me. How can I breathe?" The words were weighty with frustration leaking into every syllable. Ashley's attempts to defend herself only served to increase his rage. As the space grew smaller by the moment and the atmosphere became more charged with passion, sensing that things would spiral out of control. Karlie chose to step in with a forceful yet steady voice. "See, it's available now. It won't help to hide it." Zayne stopped pacing and looked at her for a moment before turning back to Ashley and Mendeecees. "It's better to face it, even if it's painful. Are you ready? I've been dealing with this ever since I discovered that everything I had been believing was false. This concerns all parties involved, not just me." Ashley's body shook a little as she searched for words that could repair the irreparable, her eyes welling with tears. "Trust, honesty, loyalty. All of it feels broken," Mendeecees said again, but this time his tone was gentler, almost resignation-like. "I didn't think it would turn out this way. I believed that we could resolve it amicably and discreetly." Zayne's incisive reaction broke the tension. "In a discreet manner? Silently fixing. Is concealing considered a betrayal?" His remarks weighed heavily on the room, creating an almost tangible hush that was only broken by the occasional sniffle or muttered apology. "You've created a mess bigger than you can imagine." The dispute continued after that. Emotions were running high as everyone tried to protect themselves and deal with the shock at the same time. "I never wanted to hurt anyone," Ashley remarked, her voice quivering. Zayne's laugh was brief, sour and bordering on disbelieving. "I didn't know how to stop it, but it just happened." "Occur? Can you hear yourself at all?" "Nothing like this occurs. This involves decisions, deeds, and outcomes." The gathering was shaken by the gravity of his statements, and each buddy acknowledged the seriousness of the dispute in silence. The place felt like it was about to blow up as the night went on. There seemed to be stress in every little motion, look, and breath. Nobody was able to stop the chain reaction that Karlie's admission had triggered. Zayne alternated between pacing, sitting quietly, and immediately addressing Ashley and Mendeecees. "Are you aware of the harm you have caused?" At one point, he questioned in a low voice, almost to himself, as though the betrayal was too great to properly convey out loud. Zayne reacted instantly, almost defensively, as friends attempted to mediate once more, with one stepping up and saying, "Perhaps we can talk about this calmly." Calmly. Betrayal has no calm about it. Finding out that the individuals you trusted the most have been keeping secrets is not a peaceful experience. Ashley recoiled, humiliation and remorse etched on her face. And Mendeecees' usual self-assurance gave way to an uncomfortable quiet. It was impossible to ignore the electrifying, emotionally charged energy in the room. Karlie observed intently, her face displaying a mixture of contentment and worry. Yes, she had revealed the truth, but she also anticipated a convoluted, drawn-out, and unpredictable consequence. Fans would subsequently describe these scenes as the season's high point. A showdown that encapsulated all of the unfiltered passion and revealed friendships, betrayals, and cracks that had been brewing for months. The confrontation dragged into ours, with every attempt at explanation, apology, or excuse just adding layers of intricacy. Ashley's remorse was visible. Mendeecees' uneasiness was apparent, and Zayne's confidence had been broken. Even Karlie, who had begun the evening with the conviction that she knew the truth, came to the realization that some truths were difficult to control or neatly contain. Everyone in the room was affected, the dynamic permanently altered, by the emotional weight of the affair, the disclosure, and the ensuing upheaval. Whispers of surprise and incredulity flooded the room as voices rose and fell. The cast, the friends, and anyone else watching from the outside recognized that what had started off as a laid-back evening had devolved into a serious emotional breakdown. The intensity, the rawness, and the feeling that reality television had rarely captured something so intimate, so intense, and so unfiltered were later noted by viewers in online comments. Anyone watching would be on edge, wondering what would happen next since the drama was so real. The atmosphere remained heavy and unbroken till the end of the evening. Even though Mendeecees, Ashley, Karlie, and Zayne were all emotionally spent, the tension persisted. Nobody was able to stop the chain of events that the revelation had started. Fans would subsequently characterize this as one of the season's most startling confrontations, a time when tensions were high, allegiances were called into question, and each person was compelled to face realities they could no longer deny. The room virtually vibrated with the intensity of what had just transpired, and the next few hours were a flurry of emotions. In an attempt to make sense of the betrayal he had just discovered, Zayne's hands were restless and occasionally ran through his hair. His face was pale. Mendeecees completely avoided eye contact, but Ashley stayed seated with her shoulders hunched and her eyes on the ground. After lighting the fuse, Karlie quietly watched. Realizing that the situation had escalated, Zayne eventually blurted, "You can't just act like this didn't happen." His voice hardly controlled, every syllable brimming with unfiltered passion. "How much time have you spent concealing this?" Mendeecees said hesitantly. "We thought keeping it quiet would prevent hurt. We miscalculated." Ashley's lips quivered as she responded gently. "It wasn't supposed to be like this. I didn't know how to tell you." Zayne's gaze hardened. "Miscalculated? Are you aware of what you have done to me? To everyone in our vicinity." The emotional burden that had already grown intolerable was heightened by the remarks, which seemed to reverberate throughout the space and bounce off the walls. Old wounds came to the surface as the conversation heated up. Every time Zayne thought back to the times he had confided in Ashley and shared moments with her, the feeling of betrayal grew stronger. He turned suddenly and began to pace the room while muttering to himself, "Were all of the promises and laughs false?" The ensuing hush was nearly oppressive. Sometimes the truth hurts more when it comes from the people you trust most. Karlie said hesitantly as Zayne's head turned toward her, eyes startled. "Karlie, that's precisely the purpose. It's whole chaos rather than simply pain. Everything I thought was falling apart." Friends who were present started to feel the ripple effects of the stress, which extended beyond the small circle. While some sat still, taking in the shock, others muttered to one another in bewilderment. The dynamics of friendship, loyalty, and trust had been irrevocably changed. Zayne's rage alternated between calm, raging introspection and outbursts of yelling. He mumbled, "I can't believe this," more loudly and with increasing fury each time. Ashley attempted to reply, but it felt like every word she spoke made things worse. At one point, Zayne's pacing put him squarely in front of Mendeecees and Ashley at the same time. His gaze flitted between them, looking for some indication of sincerity or regret. "Are you even aware of the impact this has on those who love you?" he insisted. Ashley's voice was barely audible as she swallowed hard. Mendeecees added, "We thought we were protecting everyone by keeping it quiet. I didn't want to hurt you." Zayne's laughter was abrasive, sour, and scathing. "Protecting. You refer to it as betrayal protection, as if the walls themselves were closing in beneath the strain of the drama." The room appeared to get smaller as the altercation continued, old wounds came back to the surface. Every time Zayne thought back to the times he had spent with Ashley, when he had fully trusted her, the betrayal seemed to be amplified. Was everything we said, laughed at, and promised a lie? He raised his voice and demanded. Ashley's eyes filled with tears, and her remorse was visible on all of her features. Zayne shook his head incredulously as Mendeecees tried to explain that it wasn't planned. "It just happened, and we didn't know how to handle it. Took place." Betrayal doesn't just happen. This is decision, action, and result. Karlie cautiously stepped in after recognizing that the altercation had gotten out of hand. "Zayne, even if it hurts, you deserve the truth." Zayne's eyes softened for a moment as he glanced at her, but he swiftly returned his attention to Ashley and Mendeecees. "Hiding it won't make it go away. Reality. Everything has already been destroyed by the truth. You get that?" His comments were heavy and unavoidable as they lingered in the room. Friends attempted to mediate again, suggesting that there might be a brief pause, a step back to collect thoughts. Zayne became irritated. "Pause. When treachery is right in front of me, how can I stop?" Ashley tried to say something, but his intense feelings interrupted him. "There's no stepping back from this. It's here. It's raw. And it's undeniable," she begged. "I didn't mean for it to happen," Zayne yelled. "Intent doesn't erase consequences." Every moment was more dramatic than the last, and the tension in the room was palpable. Mendeecees' normal poise had vanished, leaving behind anxious energy and obvious distress. Zayne's voice raised sharply as he tried again, saying, "We thought we were protecting everyone by concealing falsehoods, by acting as though there was no trust. Can you hear yourself at all?" The ferocity of the altercation left friends and bystanders speechless. The emotional stakes were obvious. Friendships were called into question, relationships were put to the test, and nobody could be left unscathed. Zayne's rage alternated between quiet, simmering contemplation and violent eruptions as the night went on. Unable to control his emotional maelstrom, he would pace, sit, and then stand. Every look and every gesture reflected Ashley's shame and the Mendeecees' uneasiness. Even though she remained mute for the majority of the conversation, Karlie understood the significance of her disclosure. She had discovered not just a secret, but also an emotional earthquake that had completely rocked the room. Knowing that this showdown would define the season, friends started whispering to one another, some incredulously, others silently watching. One murmured, "When fans see this, they're going to be shocked." Over the murmurs, Zayne's voice could be heard. "Startled, you don't know." Ashley started crying uncontrollably, her body trembling under the weight of her regret. The betrayal, the lies. It's all right here, in front of you. Mendeecees stayed motionless, nearly numb, as though they were attempting to comprehend the irreparable harm, when Zayne eventually sat down, tired, and wiped his face with his hands. It was the emotional high point. Ashley tentatively